Hello and welcome to another Dominion 6 Quick Tips. In this episode we'll go over the less savoury part of the Dominion's magic system, blood hunting. Unlike other magical gem types, blood slaves are not found through sites the majority of the time, although there are still blood magic sites that can be found. Instead, blood slaves are mostly found through the act of blood hunting, where a commander will search through a province in order to find suitable blood sacrifices. In order to find blood slaves in a province, you need to select one of your commanders to blood hunt in said province. Once you've done that, they'll search for blood slaves over the end turn, and there are 3 checks that must be passed in order to find any. I'll bring an image up on screen now that I took from the Dominion 6 manual so you can get an idea of what I mean for these checks, so that you can follow along as I explain it to you in a little bit more detail. There we go, high tech as ever. So, first, a level check is done, which is based off of the mage's blood magic level. The check is a percentage chance of the blood level times 30 plus 10. This means that every commander has a base chance of 10% to find blood slaves, while a blood magic level 1 has a 40% to 70, and a level 3 is a 100% chance to succeed this check. The next check is against the province's population, which is a percentage check of success equal to the population in a province divided by 75. So, a 7,500 population is needed in a province in order to get a 100% chance of succeeding this check. Finally, there is an Unrest check. The Unrest check has a percentage chance to fail equal to the province's Unrest divided by 4. So at 20 Unrest, for example, there's around about a 5% chance of failure. Failing any of these 3 checks will result in no blood slaves being found, and the Unrest of the population is increased by a lowercase drn -1. If all 3 checks are successful, however, the blood hunter will find a lowercase drn plus their blood level in slaves, and the unrest in that province will increase by a random number between 1 and 3 times the number of blood slaves found plus 4. Magic site frequency set at the start of the game also has an effect. Every 10% deviation from 50 will add or subtract 1 blood slave on average, adding if it's above 50, subtracting if it's below. Now, if there are multiple blood hunters in the same province, for example if I have 3 people set to blood hunt in Mictlan, then their blood hunting tasks happen sequentially rather than at the same time. This can mean that the unrest caused by the first blood hunting attempt will affect any successive blood hunters' chances of passing the 3rd check against unrest, so it might not be a good idea to have 10 blood hunters in a single province. Anyone patrolling will also not reduce the unrest in the province until after the blood hunting is over, due to its position in the end turn resolution. And the unrest from blood hunting will also reduce your gold income within a province, so choose where to hunt wisely. Additionally, there's a small chance that the commoners in a province will rise up and attack a blood hunter, unhappy that they're taking their children from them. If this happens, the blood hunter and any bodyguards or blood slaves that they have will fight an assassination style fight against some villagers. There was actually an occasion of this in Byrat here, where we can see that our mage and a couple of blood slaves are busy punching up some commoners. The commoners do not have anywhere near good enough stats, but if your mage isn't very good in combat, there's a chance they could be killed if enough of them come, so be careful. This is obviously not what you want if you can't get easy access to blood hunters or they're not very powerful, though I'd like to see how those villagers do against a vampire. The chances of this happening are reduced by the strength of your Dominion in the province. At Dominion 10, there's practically no chance of it happening. The population is so assured of your divinity, they're practically lining up for their daughters to be sacrificed. Lovely. Okay, so from this you can see that having better blood hunters makes them more efficient at blood hunting, but you can still brute force your way into a somewhat blood economy using independent scouts or other cheap commanders that you can recruit. If you do want to make your blood mages more effective at blood hunting, you can craft sanguine dowsing rods, which gives them a +1 to their blood magic level for the purposes of finding blood slaves. The next thing you'll need for your blood hunting operation will be some patrollers. You can see in Bycliff, for example, we currently have 32 unrest due to our blood hunting activities in the province. So you want to try and keep unrest down so that you don't ruin your next turn's chance of blood hunting. Good candidates for this are slaves due to their low upkeep, or cheap summons like wolves. You're already losing money by blood hunting, so keeping the overall upkeep costs down is a great idea. Now, blood hunting and patrolling will reduce the population of a province over time. You want to be blood hunting in provinces with about 7,500 population or slightly above in order to not affect your gold income too much and have the best chances for success. I would say as a hard minimum, you don't want to really blood search in a population under 5,000. Your chances of success start to get pretty low, and given the fact you might not be searching with blood 3 mages, you want to try and keep the chances of failure at a minimum as much as you can, just so you can really improve the income of slaves you get every turn. So, what can you do to mitigate this population loss? Order scales might help you bring the unrest down. So for smaller blood hunting operations, like only one mage a time, who might not be searching all the time, this will help bring down the unrest over time. Additionally, you can also add province defense to help lower unrest, a reduction of 1 per month for every 10. Additionally, taking growth scales are great for countering the population loss that happens over time. Taking at least growth 1 with a blood hunting nation will extend your province's viability for a long time, and it means that if they drop too low, you can leave them be for several turns until they get up to a decent enough population size to start hunting again. So now you have some blood slaves. What do you do with them? Well, if you have the money, you could put down a lab in the province so that your mages will automatically deposit blood slaves into it after finding them. However, these can be quite costly to put down in every single province. A better idea is to put your labs in a good location, central to your blood slave collection area, and use commanders to pick up blood slaves that your blood hunters have found to transport to these labs. You can use any commander to do this, so stealthy ones or ones that have hive movement are a good choice. Be careful, sometimes random events can happen when your sneaking commanders are holding blood slaves and they will be attacked, but being stealthy means it's harder for them to be attacked normally. In order to speed up your blood slave logistics, you can use hotkeys to speed it up. For example, in the old giant woods we currently have an independent commander and our blood hunter with a bunch of blood slaves. Now we could right click on the commander, go into the personal gems here, and left click to grab his blood slaves like that. But that's a bunch of clicks that you don't always want to use. The way that you can do it is if you select the commander you want the blood slaves to go to and press Shift and V, then he will collect blood slaves from all other commanders in the province onto himself, up to a maximum of 30. From here, we can then send him over to a province with a laboratory, so we'll be sending him to Traveller's Rest next turn. Now, we already have a commander at Traveller's Rest who moved from the old giant woods previously in order to get here to drop off these slaves. He has a bunch of slaves, and again, we could right-click on him and go through the gem thing in order to get rid of all the slaves on him. Alternatively, we can press Shift and Z, and he will automatically deposit all of his blood slaves into the laboratory inside here, so they get added to our blood slave total for our nation. This is a very good idea to speed up your turns and to save yourself carpal tunnel. So let's use this game as Mictlan as an example. I've set up a small early game blood economy at the moment, where I'm using a bunch of blood 1 mages all across my empire to search for various blood slaves. From here, I've got a bunch of mages who are casting Pack of Wolves, so I have a bunch of wolves here, which we can see have no gold upkeep per year. Fantastic. They don't have the best patrol strength at only 0.7, but the fact that they're free is excellent. And we're not really going to use them for anything else, and for the low cost of only a couple of nature gems in order to get a bunch of them, it makes sense for our economy so we can use our gold that we have in other areas. So while I have all of these level 1 mages around blood hunting, I also have additional independent commanders who are moving around in order to pick up slaves from a blood hunter. If you have really effective blood hunters, you might have to have more than one commander going to a province a turn in order to keep up with the amount of slaves they're getting. If they ever get to above 30, then those slaves are wasted if they can't be put to other commanders, so keep that in mind. If you get to the point where you are getting routinely more than 30 slaves from one of your commanders, maybe just pop down a laboratory. Seems like you've found a good place. Once we have additional construction, what I would like to do is I'd like to outfit all of these blood hunters with sanguine dowsing rods, so the chance for success at the first check of blood hunting goes from 40% up to 70%, and that will make us be able to bring in far more slaves than we otherwise would. Come the mid to late game, you can have a blood economy that can have hundreds of slaves being brought in every single turn, which you can use to decimate your enemies using powerful blood magic. Anyway, I hope this episode was useful to you for an idea of how to set up a basic blood economy. Let me know in the comments if there's anything else that you'd like to know more about blood economies, or if you would like me to go into the subject in a little bit more detail. But until next time, take care.